Television is great for telling serialized stories over time, but not every TV series is meant to last. None of the shows on this list made it past a single season, and we still aren't over it. Pulling from their own awkward high school experiences as newcomers and outsiders in small communities, David Guariccio and Moses Port recalled the genesis of their show Aliens in America in an interview with Pathos, saying, "We started talking about politics and the giant gap that exists between Americans and really the rest of the world, specifically the Muslim world." Airing on the CW between 2007 and 2008, Aliens in America focuses on social misfit Justin Tolchuk and his wholesome yet quirky Wisconsin family. They take in a foreign exchange student from Pakistan for a culture clash comedy about peace, love, and understanding, as the show's theme song goes.
Oh, well, why don't you wear a warmer jacket over that boy blouse of yours?
When Scott Patterson, who played Patriarch Gary Tolchuk, sat down with IGN in 2008, he was full of praise for Aliens in America's humor and its message, calling it relevant for the times, and saying, "The beauty of the show is that it shows there's ignorance on both sides." Critics were fond of it too, even when the ratings didn't back it up. The Boston Herald wrote that, "Aliens in America is warm, funny, and smart. It doesn't stand a chance." That prediction proved true. 2 years later, Variety was still lamenting the show's cancellation. With the success of Star Wars came imitators hot on its heels, hoping to turn their own space dust into magic. In 1978, producer Glenn A. Larson tried to launch his own space opera, Battlestar Galactica. In an interview with Science and Fantasy Film Classics magazine, Larson described his approach to the show. It's Genesis. It's basically the concept of all the human cultures in space having evolved from a mother planet culture. We've got a truly rare opportunity to really open up that frontier and talk about what could happen out there in space. It doesn't have to be all robots and flying machines.
Yes, the mother world of all humans, where life began.
The series takes place at the end of a long conflict between humans and Cylons, robots created by an extinct reptilian race. Humanity rallies behind the Galactica, a Battlestar warship led by Commander Adama, played by Lorne Greene.
Ready? Fire.
Things got off to a bumpy start for the show when the premiere was interrupted by President Jimmy Carter's announcement of the Camp David Accords. The good fight for humanity raged on, but competition from other networks and constant comparisons to Star Wars did the show no favors. Ron Cowan from the Statesman Journal wrote of Battlestar Galactica at the time, "The opening was impressive, but the show became more a soap opera than a space opera. The writing was on the wall. Battlestar Galactica was taken out of orbit the following season. Many prefer the highly acclaimed 2004 reboot, but plenty of viewers still have a soft spot for the original series." Out of all the zany characters Martin Short has brought to life, few have utilized his talents better than buttoned-up, triangle-haired, happy-go-lucky Ed Grimley. Short debuted the character at the Second City, and Grimley was further developed on SCTV and Saturday Night Live. But Short wasn't interested in playing Grimley on the big screen. Instead, he took Hanna-Barbera up on an offer to create a Saturday morning cartoon, The Completely Mental Misadventures of Ed Grimley. The move made sense because, as he told New York's The Post star, "It's a real-life person acting like an animated character." They modeled the cartoon after the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends, making it something both kids and parents could enjoy. Short went tall on talent, bringing Catherine O'Hara, Andrea Martin, and Jonathan Winters on board to amp the absurdity. The following season, Grimley got the axe, replaced by fellow SCTV alum John Candy's animated show, Camp Candy. Short bemoaned the decision in an interview with the Tampa Tribune, saying, "It had reviews like we wrote them ourselves, and NBC couldn't take that show off fast enough. They thought it was too odd. If I had done Ed Grimley, Boy Scout leader, it would be on today." MC Search, aka Michael Barron, knows a thing or two about what it takes to be respected as a white rapper. In 2007, the former third base member hosted Ego Trip's The White Rapper Show on VH1.
"I was confused when I seen the white rappers coming down the block. I was wondering what was going on, you know what I mean?"
According to an interview Search gave to the Virginian Pilot, the competition series mixed elements of Survivor, hip-hop, Jeopardy, racial tension, political views, and Seinfeld into one. 10 hopeful rappers with stage names like Shamrock, Just Rhyme, Persia, G-Child, and 100 Proof lived in the Bronx and battled for $100,000. They got to work with hip-hop royalty like Curtis Blow, Prince Paul, Kool Keith, Grandmaster Flash, and House of Pain members Danny Boy O'Connor and Eric Francis Schrody, aka Everlast. One contestant, John Boy, told the Virginian Pilot, "I felt like the show was rap boot camp. It was really humbling, trying to educate us on where hip-hop came from." Search was hopeful that a second season would get greenlit, but it never materialized. Folk comedy duo Ricky Lindholm and Kate Micucci are better known to fans as Garfunkel and Oates. They're sometimes referred to as the female Flight of the Conchords, which they don't mind. In an interview with the Tampa Bay Times, Lindholm admitted, "We describe ourselves as that because it's an easy way to let people know what we do." Their naughty, sharp-tongued brand of musical humor led HBO to develop a pilot with them, but it never took flight. Instead, they landed at IFC with a self-titled show directed and executive produced by Fred Savage.
We can't open for our own knockoff. That's like Paul McCartney opening for a Beatles cover band.
Playing exaggerated versions of themselves, Lindholm and Micucci set about trying to make it big in Hollywood. The duo had to tone down their act to comply with the TV-14 rating. Micucci told Under the Radar, "Because of the show's TV-14, a lot of our dirtier material we were not able to use." Instead, they poked fun at everything from Sesame Street and Saved by the Bell to sports fans and, of course, themselves. Joining in on the fun were the likes of Tig Notaro, Kevin Pollak, Weird Al Yankovic, Kumail Nanjiani, Ben Kingsley, and even rocker John Oates, who told Entertainment Weekly, "I thought they were really clever and funny." So did critics. The show dropped to rave reviews in 2014. News of the show's cancellation after a single season didn't go down well. As one AV Club headline put it, "IFC stops being cool, cancels Garfunkel and Oates." It's hard to fathom that The Honeymooners, one of the most iconic sitcoms of all time, lasted just a single season. The show that CBS first beamed onto black and white TV sets in 1955 set the standard for television comedy for decades, influencing everything from The Flintstones to King of Queens. The show originated as a sketch on Jackie Gleason's variety show Cavalcade of Stars in 1951. The domestic antics of Gleason's bus driver character Ralph Cramden followed Gleason to The Jackie Gleason Show and would eventually become the basis for a half-hour comedy.
"I don't know anybody does the mambo. I don't do it. Norton doesn't do it. My grandmother never did it."
Although The Honeymooners trailed The Perry Como Show in the ratings, CBS was hungry for more. Alas, Gleason turned them down. The star is quoted in William J. Weatherby's Jackie Gleason, An Intimate Portrait of the Great One, as saying, "They wouldn't believe me when I said we couldn't come up with the same high quality of scripts for a second year."
Ralph, how could you do such a thing?
Gleason explained that he, quote, "wanted to go out on top." The Honeymooners characters would live on in specials and variety shows, but nothing would compare to those 39 episodes. Gleason was nominated for an Emmy for his portrayal of Ralph Cramden in the show. Did he ever regret not making more? Co-star Art Carney confided to the Corsicana Daily Sun, "I think Gleason wishes he made 139 of them." One of the best kids' game shows ever made has been mostly forgotten to time. I'm Telling ran on Saturday mornings for a single season between 1987 and 1988. Capitalizing on the popularity of Nickelodeon's Double Dare, producer Haim Saban came up with the idea. He told the Los Angeles Times, "We were looking for creative ways to produce something different for children." Saban added that there was an overabundance of animated programming, and his show was far less expensive than a cartoon would be. The format was similar to the Newlywed Game, but here it was siblings who'd guess how the other would answer a revealing question. The winning pair advanced to the final round, the Pick a Prize arcade. Host Lori Fosso talked about the show with the Detroit Free Press, saying, "It's not demeaning to kids, it's not educational, but there's no violence in it, and it's not going to hurt kids in any way." There were a couple of celebrity episodes of I'm Telling. In one, Sean Astin appeared alongside his brother. Other episodes featured then unknown talents like Paul Walker, Lindsay Price, and Giovanni Ribisi. If you can find it, you can relive the magic of I'm Telling by scooping up a copy of the board game. Importing a beloved British show is always a risky proposition. For every The Office, there are dozens of failures. But Arrested Development writer-producer Brad Copeland saw potential in the raunchy UK comedy The Inbetweeners, a show about 4 teens who aren't as hip as they'd like to be. Beginning in 2012, MTV rolled out 12 episodes, some directed by Taika Waititi.
We're going to go on up there and we're going to cause some havoc.
Critics and fans of the original weren't willing to give it a chance to stand on its own, and new viewers perhaps didn't know what to make of it. But the US version produced its own brand of laughter, especially when Zach Perlman was involved. Like the imported skins before it, the Inbetweeners remake never caught on in America and soon got the axe. Perlman penned a goodbye on Tumblr saying, "I will always be able to look back at and smile knowing that we did a fantastic job." According to Joe Thomas of the UK version, the American version was doomed from the start, as he explained to Sunday Brunch. They couldn't really swear very much because it was on network TV, and then you couldn't show them drinking and stuff, and that's kind of the whole show.
Why do you smell like vomit and cheap alcohol?
It wasn't cheap. It had gold in it.
In 2005, the Globe and Mail pointed out that 3 major networks would, quote, air new dramas about the United States under attack from outside forces that fall. NBC's effort was Surface, CBS had Threshold, and ABC went with the unidentified frightening objects of Invasion. In an interview with Today, Invasion creator Sean Cassidy called the show a suspense thriller in the bright sunlight. Invasion takes place in the Everglades of Florida. The story kicks off after a devastating hurricane when strange things start to occur. Left behind in the destruction and debris are 2 blended families who do everything they can to stay dry and keep their bodies from being snatched by the unknown menace lurking in the wetlands. William Fichtner, who played the town's shifty sheriff, told the Lansing State Journal that they wanted to end season 1 with a twist. The sheriff's wife, who's presumed dead, was the mastermind all along. Unfortunately, casting took too long, leaving the series with a different, jarring cliffhanger that never got resolved. Despite desperate pleas from fans, who even flew a banner over ABC's headquarters, no one could undo the cancellation. When HBO's acclaimed series Rome fell after 2 seasons, Scottish actor Kevin McKidd looked around for a new project. There were plenty of generic cop dramas, but he was taken by the script for Journeyman. He told the VC Star, "I thought it was different and interesting and really imaginative and cleverly written. That's all you can go by." The 2007 NBC series, created by Kevin Falls, centers around McKidd's Dan Vassar, a San Francisco journalist who travels back in time to right wrongs for others, while balancing the affections of his current flame and his former partner, who is presumed dead. Journeyman was compared to both The Time Traveler's Wife and Quantum Leap, and Entertainment Weekly called it the awesome show the whole world is ignoring, even though it's on right after Heroes. Lukewarm ratings and a lengthy writer's strike combined to kill off the series. However, when asked about the series' sudden ending by Entertainment Weekly, Falls said, "We do answer quite a few questions, so fans will get a feeling of closure." Falls admitted to The Hollywood Reporter that he felt bad about upending McKidd's life, uprooting his family, and moving them to the United States. However, he added, "I'm relieved to say it turned into a pot of gold." The next year, Kevin started his first of 10 seasons on Grey's Anatomy. He also learned to surf. When CBS rolled out its unique and controversial reality series Kid Nation in 2007, there were a lot of concerned parents. The only adult to be found in the ghost town of Bonanza City, New Mexico, was host Jonathan Karsh, who stood on the sidelines and watched as 40 kids fended for themselves for 40 days. The idea was to form a community without descending into Lord of the Flies territory.
Girls and boys of Bonanza City. I'm sure we've all heard the term over and over again. Deal with it.
Even before the show premiered, bad press haunted Kid Nation, largely due to the agreement parents signed, which prevented them from suing even if their child died. Hollywood Reporter Nikki Fink loudly pleaded for the network to yank the show from their slate, and advertisers were initially hesitant to promote their brands alongside it. Regardless, CBS stood by Kid Nation, defending their care of the kids and even prepping a second season. The show premiered to 9.4 million viewers, proving popular with youngsters, but the numbers dipped by the end of the 13-episode run, and season 2 never came to be. The great thing about Kid Nation is that it pushed its contestants to new limits. Executive producer Tom Foreman told Variety, "The part that was amazing and controversial and groundbreaking was the social element and the documentary element as the kids figured it out. Many of the kids have spoken fondly about their time on the show, which is now looked on as a fascinating TV relic. The late writing duo Stan Burns and Mike Marmer wrote for comedy greats like Milton Berle, Steve Allen, the Smothers Brothers, and Carol Burnett. But perhaps their greatest unsung contribution to television was a show that saw them go completely ape. In an interview with the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Marmer recalled, "It all started with the mad idea of making a comedy spy movie with no people, just chimps. We knew nothing about chimps or even whether such a project was possible."
Oh, I just can't look. I can't believe my eyes.
With help from animal trainer Frank Inn, a 10-minute demo film was made, and audiences went absolutely bananas over it. ABC opened their Saturday morning cages to the concept that eventually became 1970's The Lancelot Link Secret Chimp Hour. The show centered on the titular chimpanzee and his colleagues at Ape, Matahari, and Commander Darwin. They attempted to thwart the monkey business of Chump with such rascally characters as Baron von Butcher.
This is the first step in my brilliant plan to steal and dispose of the Star of Galactica diamond.
The madness of watching these dressed-to-the-nines chimps drive motorcycles, ski, and play tennis was interspersed with small side gags called chimpies, groovy musical interludes by the band The Evolution Revolution, and even some Looney Tunes shorts. While Lancelot Link technically ran for 2 seasons, the second was basically a condensed version of the first. The show would find a new generation of fans when it naturally followed reruns of The Monkees on Nick at Night in the 1990s. Life's Too Short is a hilarious one-season show from Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant. In a BBC press release, Gervais described the show saying, "Life's Too Short is a naturalist observational comedy, dealing with everyday problems, human foibles, and social faux pas, but with a dwarf." The lead role is played by Warwick Davis, who's rarely been given the chance to show off his comedic side. Over 7 episodes that began airing in 2011, Davis raised his eyebrows and rolled his eyes alongside stars such as Johnny Depp, Liam Neeson, Sting, Helena Bonham Carter, and Steve Carell, while being supported in clueless fashion by Gervais and Merchant.
It's just really hard to act opposite this, given the way it looks. I mean...
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, I can't have his face staring at me either.
The comedy was filled with memorable moments, and Gervais had a ball working with Davis. Davis told CNN that others in the dwarf community appreciated it, saying, "They find that this character doesn't paint a rosy picture, but paints more of a real picture in a sense."
You're a dwarf, how can you not know hi-ho, hi-ho?
Gervais said a second season was on deck, but it turned into a special in which Davis was reunited with his Willow co-star, Val Kilmer. In the 1980s, NBC chief Brandon Tartikoff was willing to take chances on shows that were a bit off-kilter. While one of his pet projects, Manimal, about a man who turns into animals, didn't hit the mark, it didn't deter him from trying similar things, like 1985's Misfits of Science. The show followed a crew of extraordinary people who drove around in an ice cream truck. There was a scientist, a shrinking man, an electrically charged Fonz-like guy, and a telekinetic teen. Dean Paul Martin and a young Courtney Cox were in the cast. The gang not only had to battle dastardly bad guys weekly, but also the ratings superpower that was Dallas. The lackluster special effects made the show cheesy yet endearing to young audiences who embraced it during its original run. The plot seemed crazy for the time, but that was before Marvel took over Hollywood. In a piece about the show, the Salt Lake City Tribune wrote, "It was about a bunch of people with superpowers, so maybe it was just ahead of its time." NBC's Outsourced is a TV adaptation of a feature film which follows a group of call center workers in India. When Ken Kwapis, best known for his work on The Office, saw the movie, he asked the creators if he could pitch it as a show. He told The Hollywood Reporter, "My pitch was very simple. Whether it's a paper company in Scranton, Pennsylvania, or a call center in Mumbai, the petty foibles of office life are universal." Clustered on a night of big NBC comedies alongside The Office, 30 Rock, and Community, Outsourced had a lot to live up to. And while it didn't go down well with many critics, those who liked it raved about it. While some said the show reinforced negative stereotypes, writer Gitika Lizardi wrote in a Los Angeles Times op-ed, "The humor ultimately comes from a place of affection." Leslie Nielsen's The Naked Gun films are considered to be some of the greatest slapstick comedies of all time, but many people don't realize that his detective character, Frank Drebin, was in a TV show called Police Squad first. While promoting the hit movie Airplane, comedic masterminds Jim Abrahams and the Zucker brothers watched a police procedural show and knew immediately that the genre was ripe for a parody.
We would have come earlier, but your husband wasn't dead then.
ABC gave the concept a 6-episode trial, seeing it as a possible replacement for Mork and Mindy. Nielsen needed little convincing to sign on, saying, "I would have paid to be in this. I'm on the same wavelength with these guys." Puns and double entendres abounded. The weekly guest star was usually killed off in the opening credits, and those who did survive, including Dick Clark, Dr. Joyce Brothers, and Tommy Lasorda, sought professional advice from an omniscient shoeshine man named Johnny.
Johnny, some kids on the show yesterday mentioned a new kind of music, ska. You know anything about it?
Nielsen told the Minneapolis Star and Tribune, "If ever there was a show that I thought was going to be a hit, this was it. People didn't know how to look at it." One person who did get it was Washington Post critic Tom Shales, who called it arguably the best comedy show of the 1980s. Patrick McGoohan made his name starring in the series Danger Man, released in the US as Secret Agent. When he tired of the show, he quit and moved on to what has become one of the most influential shows of the 1960s, The Prisoner. This fascinating one-season British series follows an unnamed intelligence agent being held captive in a creepy village.
Where's the police station?
There isn't one.
Can I use your phone?
Oh, we haven't got one.
The show was a metaphor for society at large. McGoohan said in a 1977 interview, "Your village may be different from other people's villages, but we are all prisoners." The mind-bending series, which launched the catchphrase, "Be seeing you," was shot at the Welsh seaside. It featured cryptic villagers decked out in mod fashions and the creepiest ever use of a white meteorologist balloon. It even captured the hearts of the Beatles, so much so that they let the show use their song "All You Need Is Love" in an episode. George Harrison's son, Donnie, told Wired, "It was the only time a Beatles song has ever been licensed to a TV show." The 2010 thriller series Rubicon is an overlooked gem. Speaking to the Baltimore Sun, writer Henry Brumell said that, "Rubicon was born out of the belief that we in the United States could wake up one day soon and find our democracy gone, not vanquished by an army, but by an almost invisible collusion between business and government. I know I'm not the only one who feels helpless and powerless in the face of this collusion." The show debuted to 2 million viewers, which was a record for AMC at the time, but it was soon eclipsed by a juggernaut called The Walking Dead. The numbers didn't hold up, and on a channel where Mad Men and Breaking Bad made good, Rubicon became The Walking Dead itself. In an interview with AV Club, Rommel projected that James Badge Dale won't have to be doing as much starring and thinking next season. But it wasn't meant to be. Season 2 never happened, and a great show was lost. In 2019, the New York Times revisited the show in an article headlined, "Ahead of its time, Rubicon still holds up." And Vulture's Vikram Murthy agreed in a piece titled, "The time is right to rediscover Rubicon." Inspired by the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, the 1982 show Voyagers is about a time traveler named Phineas Fogg, played by John Eric Hexum, and a wise, beyond his years orphan named Jeffrey Jones, played by Mino Pellucci. It spelled out its premise in its opening credits. We travel through time to help history along, give it a push where it's needed. While the show took artistic liberties with actual historical events, it was all in the name of pleasing the target audience. Pellucci told the Columbia Record, "In this show, we roll up our sleeves, dig right in, and become part of history. It's every kid's fantasy to participate in the great events in time. Weaving through the ages, they cross paths and sometimes swords with Cleopatra, Abraham Lincoln, Lawrence of Arabia, Thomas Edison, Harry Houdini, Charles Lindbergh, Robin Hood, and Kubla Khan." The Washington Post hailed Voyagers as a joyride from start to finish, and the Citizen's Voice praised the show for its attempts both to entertain and educate our children. Tragically, Hexum died following an on-set incident with a prop gun in 1984. This meant that a second season of Voyagers could never happen, even if the network had wanted to make it. NBC had already pulled the plug, however, on account of the show struggling to go up against 60 Minutes, which aired at the same time. Voyagers remains an 80s time capsule, one that is definitely worth digging up.